For 2,000 years, we've been told a carefully curated version of Jesus' life. Verses selected, stories reshaped, whole teachings erased. But what if the greatest secret of Christianity isn't in the pages we read, but in the lines that were cut away? What if I told you that Jesus and Mary Magdalene may have had a child, a hidden bloodline, a daughter whose story was buried, yet whispered in legends across Europe? Her name was Sarah. Today, we dive into one of the most controversial mysteries of early Christianity. Who was Sarah, and why does her story matter even today? History remembers kings, warriors, and emperors, but sometimes the most powerful figures are the ones erased, the ones whose very existence could topple empires. Sarah is one of those figures. In the official story of Christianity, she doesn't exist at all. There's no mention of her in the Gospels chosen by the Church, no line in the New Testament, no acknowledgement in sermons or doctrine. And yet across southern France, in the memories of the Roma, and in the whispers of esoteric tradition, her shadow refuses to vanish. Who is Sarah? To some, she's just Sarah Locali, a mysterious dark-skinned girl who arrived with the exiled Marys after the crucifixion. To others, she is simply a servant, a helper, a symbolic figure woven into folklore. But for those who dare to look deeper, Sarah is something far more profound. She is the forgotten daughter of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, the living continuation of the Christ light. The crucifixion was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of an exile. After Jesus' death, persecution swept through Judea. Followers of the way were hunted, questioned, scattered. The disciples who had once walked openly with their teacher now whispered in hiding, watching friends dragged away to execution. And in the midst of this chaos, imagine Mary Magdalene, not the weeping figure painted by later artists, but a woman carrying a secret far more dangerous than faith alone. Some say she carried with her the most precious treasure of all, a child. Legend tells us that she did not flee alone. At her side were Mary Jacobi, Mary Salome, and other women faithful to the mission of Christ. Together they boarded a small, rudderless boat, pushed out into the Mediterranean Sea. To their enemies, they looked like fugitives, but to those who see with inner sight, they were guardians on a sacred journey. For days, perhaps weeks, they drifted. The waves their walls, the stars their guide, the salt of tears mixing with the salt of the sea. Each crash of water against the boat was both a threat and a baptism, and among them was a child, Sarah. Some legends say she was born on that journey, others that she was already a young girl when they fled. But in every telling, she is there, hidden among the exiled Marys, her life too sacred to risk. Finally, the boat reached the shores of what is now southern France, at a place still known as Saintes Maries de la Mer, the St. Marys of the Sea. It was here that the women came ashore, weary but alive, carrying not only their faith but a future. To this day, that small seaside town holds a ritual unlike any other. Every year, thousands gather to carry the statue of Sarah Locali, down to the sea, her robes flowing, her face dark, her presence mysterious. Official history calls her the servant of the Marys, but those who know the deeper story see in that procession the reenactment of the true arrival, the landing of Christ's hidden legacy upon European soil. What the empire tried to erase, the waves themselves seem to preserve. For centuries, seekers have hunted for the Holy Grail, Knights rode into battle searching for it. Crusaders died in deserts chasing whispers of its location. Writers imagined it as a chalice, a relic, a golden cup that once held the blood of Christ. But the greatest mysteries often hide in plain sight. What if the Grail was never a cup? In the old languages, Sangreal, the Holy Grail, can be read two ways. One translation is Sangral, Holy Cup. But another, older reading is Sangreal, Royal Blood. Think about that. The Grail isn't an object to be found. It's a lineage, a living bloodline. Mary Magdalene was the vessel, the living chalice. Her womb, not some stone goblet, was the true container of the sacred blood. And Sarah, her daughter, was the Grail made flesh. This is why Sarah's existence had to be buried. Because if people knew that the blood of Christ continued in human form, the power of salvation could no longer be monopolized by a church. It would mean the sacred was not confined to altars, relics, or institutions. It flowed in people, families, and generations. For the church, this was unacceptable. Their authority depended on the claim that Christ's story ended on the cross, and that they alone carried his authority on earth. A daughter changes everything. A bloodline decentralizes power. And yet, whispers of this truth survived. Hidden in stained glass windows where Magdalene is shown holding a child. Preserved in Templar legends that spoke not of a relic, but of a secret family. Kept alive by the Cathars, who taught of a continuity of light that survived beyond the institutions of Rome. Even in alchemical and Rosicrucian writings, the Grail is described as a womb, a vessel of life, the feminine principle of creation. Always feminine, always hidden, always pointing back to Magdalene and the child she carried. So when seekers searched for the Grail, perhaps they were chasing the wrong thing. The Grail was never meant to be found in stone halls or treasure troves. It was meant to be recognized in living souls, in bloodlines, in awakened consciousness. Sarah, then, is both legend and symbol. Legend, because she may have truly carried the royal blood across the sea. Symbol, because she represents the unbroken thread of divine light that institutions could never erase. The Grail isn't in a cup. The Grail is alive. And maybe, just maybe it's alive in you. Across the centuries, whispers have carried a strange and luminous expectation that one day, what was hidden would rise again. The Gnostics spoke of it in veiled words, the reunion of what was divided, the restoration of balance between the masculine and the feminine, between heaven and earth, spirit and matter. To them, this return was not a myth of the past, but a pulse of the future, a seed planted in silence that would one day bloom in light. Rosicrucian writings call it the time of total revelation. Alchemical texts describe it as the moment when the Grail will no longer be a mystery, but a living movement. Templar manuscripts hint that at the end of the age, the sacred blood, the Sangreal, will reveal itself, not as a relic of stone or chalice of gold, but as a lineage, a presence, a torch passed on to the children of light. Among the Romani people who have revered Sarah for centuries, old oral traditions speak of a prophecy that when the waters rise to touch the feet of the Black Madonna with fire, she will no longer stand as memory, but as a call. A forgotten daughter will be recognized. A hidden seed will burst forth. What does this mean? It means the story of Sarah is not finished. It was never about a girl lost to history, but about a spiritual force waiting for its moment to return. That moment, many believe, is now. Look around you. See how Mary Magdalene's name, once silenced and smeared, is being lifted up in books, films, and spiritual circles. See how millions are walking away from lifeless dogma, yearning instead for direct connection with the divine. See how conversations about the sacred feminine, once suppressed, are resurfacing with urgency and power. This is not fashion. This is prophecy unfolding. The return is not expected to be televised, proclaimed from pulpits, or blessed by thrones. No, it comes like a whisper in your heart, like a dream that stirs you awake at midnight, like a shiver that runs down your spine when truth touches you. It comes in the quiet but undeniable recognition. Something lost is being restored. The question is not if the prophecy is real, but if you are listening. Because prophecy does not just describe an event, it invites participation. The return is not only about Sarah, it is about us, about you. And here's the most important truth. The return of Sarah is not only about flesh and blood, it is about consciousness. Every time you question what tradition told you without proof, every time you honor wisdom that was denied, every time you allow spirit to speak louder than fear, you are living the return. Sarah becomes more than a daughter hidden in legend. She becomes the awakening spark within each soul, ready to rise from silence. This is why so many today feel restless, why countless souls are leaving the institutions that once held them bound, why they are searching for something more authentic, more intimate, more alive. They are hearing the whisper of the lineage. They are feeling the pulse of the forgotten daughter. In this sense, you are the lineage, not through blood alone, but through spirit. The Grail is not in a chalice, but in your heart. The sacred presence does not dwell in stone temples, but in awakened consciousness. And here is the paradox that frightened empires. An awakened soul cannot be controlled. Once you feel the kingdom within, you no longer need intermediaries. Once you honor the feminine and masculine within yourself, no priest, no throne, no empire can dictate your truth. This is why the story of Sarah was hidden, because it decentralizes power. It tells us the Christ did not vanish into heaven, leaving authority in the hands of a few. It tells us his light continued, in his daughter, in Magdalene, and those who carry the secret across the sea, and now in us. So the awakening is not coming. It is happening. It is why you are here, reading these words, feeling a flame inside you that was long asleep. It is why Magdalene's voice, buried under centuries of slander, now rises again like a tide. It is why you, and many across the world, are being stirred by questions you cannot ignore. This brings us to the question that rattles the pillars of belief. What if it's true? What if Jesus really had a daughter? What if Sarah grew up, hidden and protected, her legacy spreading quietly outside church control? What if the faith you inherited was not the whole story, but a carefully edited version, shaped by men who feared the implications of a Christ with family, with descendants, with living continuity? If that is true, then faith is no longer centered on one event 2,000 years ago. It is a living chain of revelation, a flame passed down, not extinguished. It means spirituality belongs not to the few, but to the many, not to institutions, but to awakened souls. And maybe that is the true fear of those who silence their story, that once people see Jesus as a master of light who lived, loved, and left behind a legacy, the altars of control would crumble. So what do we do with this? We don't treat it as just curiosity or conspiracy. This is not entertainment. It is an invitation. You are being invited to live as part of that return, to embody the restoration, to carry the torch of revelation. If this message touched something inside you, I ask you to write in the comments, "I am part of the return of light," or "The lineage awakens in me." These aren't just words. They're declarations, seeds planted in the invisible, a way of saying, "I see. I know. I choose not to stay silent," because Sarah's legacy isn't just about the past. It is about a future where faith is no longer chained to institutions, but set free in hearts like yours. And so the question lingers in the air. What if it's true? If it is, then nothing changes. Accept everything. If this resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with others who are seeking, and subscribe to this channel to walk with us as we uncover more hidden truths. Together, we are the return.